that. Let's see here. Let's make sure we're back live. I'm gonna double check everything. Not sure why it just went offline.
Weird.
Let's see.
YouTube could have just glitched too.
Okay, there we go. We're back live now. We're good. Alrighty.
Back-
Apologize
back
everybody
into the
for some reason the stream just turned off on its own. I'm not sure what happened there, but again, I do apologize for that. And we were just kind of in the middle of the conversation, everybody, about the All-Star break and what could bring excitement to it. So Pete, why don't you go ahead and kind of replay your points, and then we'll continue going.
For sure. Yeah. No. I can actually reformat what I was saying a little bit. This is not a bad thing for me. I really like what I enjoyed the most. I felt like was, we have a lot of these players in the news right now for lots of things that kind of take away from the actual game and like the respect I think that a lot of the older players had for basketball as just as a sport and an entity, right? Like Ben Simmons of the world, the James Hardens of the world, even like dudes on teams doing just foolish things like on the court, right? Like I feel like there's kind of an uptick, it seems like, in that, but I think more so than anything, it is the way that the league is carried in the media, right?
Yeah.
So it was nice to have a good reminder that like this is really what the players really do truly have respect for what they're doing, right? And I think for each other and the people who came before them and built the league up, and I think that this weekend was a nice reminder of that in this kind of weird, chaotic league. Like, because I forget to mention even dudes like, Kyrie, right? Like, we have just this weird year of those are the big stories, right? None of the big stories are really very good things about players, I don't feel like.
Yeah.
But it's all the drama, and that's kind of what it seems like the average fan is looking for. But I do enjoy that side of the league more, to be honest with you. Like, I like the camaraderie that the older players have with each other. Seeing LeBron and Michael Jordan, have that long embrace, right? And like that is basketball to me. That's what it is. That's why I enjoy it. That's why those players mean so much to me growing up, and they still do to this day, right? So I think that was definitely a big win for the league this weekend. The events themselves stunk, though. Like, they stunk.
Yeah.
I thought the 3-point contest was okay. Like, it is what it is, right? It is just literally dudes taking 3-point shots.
Right.
That was interesting, right? It was fine. It was nice to see Cat win, right? I thought that was kind of cool. Like, there was all this talk of him being the best shooting big man ever, and he goes out there and gets the W. I thought that was cool, right? Besides that, dunk contest, I'm sorry. I'm a Knicks fan, Knicks Brotherhood. I love you out there. That was sad. That was a sorry win. Obi, you tried your best. You got the W.
Yep.
It's one of the weakest wins maybe ever of all time. It probably is, to be fair. It was bad. The All-Star game was okay, too, especially the last, 5 minutes of it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Pete.
I think that's every offseason. I think that's every All-Star game, though.
Yeah, they need to find a way to... I think the only thing that I would say is they need to find a way to reinvent the wheel when it comes to the All-Star game. I mean, it just... In all sports, it just does not seem to have that same kind of allure and lust that it once did back, in the 90s and early 2000s. And that, honestly, might just be us being old heads. Or, I guess, older.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't.
With some stuff. But I do agree with you with the fact that, like, the dunk contest was probably the worst dunk contest I think I've ever seen before. I was really disappointed in the effort and really the lack of creativity from all those guys. I liked Obi's last dunk attempt because I think that was really good, but I just think that there was too many props. I think Cole Anthony kind of ruined the show a little bit in that, and the fact that he was just taking his sweet time, putting his Timbs on, then talking to his dad, like trying to get the crowd hyped into it.
It was
and it was just. And it was like, Cole Anthony, and I think he said on Twitter too, he'll never enter the dunk contest again. And hey, man, I just think that it just was not a good look for the NBA from a dunk contest perspective. But everything else I think was good. The celebrity game, obviously no one really watches that one. I think that they could do something to that. I don't know what they could do, but they need to
just don't do it.
Maybe just not even do it, and not maybe not make it so corporate. I feel like it's corporate when it comes to like the All-Star game for the celebrities.
Here, let me give you. Can I reinvent not only the celebrity game but also the All-Star game? All right, here's my idea. Right, why not the whole weekend? The All-Star game is now a 3v3 tournament, right? Where the top voted players each are, team captains,
Yeah.
right? All the 5 starters, right? And then you do the little draft thing like normal, but all the players get to pick their 2 teammates, right? And anybody, let's say that they could even add additional all-stars to this, which helps them, right? You
Right.
get to make more all-stars. But then anybody who gets voted an all-star but doesn't get drafted, let's say whatever, I don't even know what the numbers would have to be to make this work. But let's say there's 10 players who are all-star voted but don't make it into the thing. I don't think these guys would like what I'm about to say, but what if they do like some sort of alternate little like tournament too where they get to play with a celebrity, right? Like a 2-man team where you pair up like a almost all-star and a celebrity against another team like that.
Yeah. I
think that'd be more interesting. Like little tournament, at least for the all-star game. Like even get rid of the celebrity one, right? I honestly stick with my first suggestion. Just get rid of the celebrity game. Nobody cares what those. Like they're doing those weird little tournament video. Like doesn't Jack Harlow do like a celebrity kind of tournament on YouTube? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, let him do that. Maybe even partner with him and where that's like a separate thing. That's more interesting, right? Yeah. I don't even watch that, and I guarantee it's more interesting, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But the All-Star game, at the very least, I think they just need to be done with the 1 4-quarter traditional game. Those dudes already play enough 4-quarter traditional games. They don't want to do it, right? Yeah. That's why they don't play the first 3 quarters like it's a real game. It's like they're all just chucking up threes. So, which I guess is kind of, there would be other older heads who would say that is what the NBA is, but it's really not. Like, it's not that bad, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Make a tournament out of it. I think they would have more fun with that, where they play to like 10, and then once you get to the finals and the semifinals, maybe they play to 21.
Exactly. And speaking of tournaments, that's a great segue, Pete. Sorry to cut you off and make you a segue, but for the All-Star game, we can kind of get back to it at the end of the stream, but I really wanted to talk about, this in-season tournament that seems to be gaining more rumors and more push as the years have gone on by. Adam Silver says the NBA is moving closer to adding in the in-season tournament. We obviously know that this would mean that there would be less games of the regular season, and bringing in this tournament, just like the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup for my Premier League guys out there, it'd be kind of something like that, where it would just be in season. I'm not sure what they would do as like the winner of the tournament, what they get. Maybe, hopefully they can entice teams to actually want to do it. But, kind of going to that, Pete, and then, back to you again on this. What do you make of the in-season tournament? Are you a fan, or do you think that they should just not even entertain the idea of that?
I am a fan of it, to be honest with you, like from a fan perspective, right? Like it's more basketball. It has, if they can make it where the stakes matter, right?
Yeah.
And here, let me give you one hypothetical. This is the win, right?
Okay.
What if they give you, for winning the in-season tournament, you get 1 free tampering?
1 free tampering.
You get 1 free get out of tampering jail free card, and you can tamper with 1 player as much as you want. What if they did that? Dude, how many teams would go out for that? It would go so hard for that award. Oh my gosh, I think I just solved their problems, right? Then everybody who wants to be tampering, who's going to be tampering behind closed doors, because they're going to be like the runner-up teams that lost, right? So now you have like a stinging effect where you see who's going to do it, and then the one person gets out of jail free. Yeah. I think that's a good idea. However, I don't think they should do it for the mere fact that you don't want to put too much wear and tear on these guys, especially in the middle of the season, right? Like this is when most dudes start to coast for a reason, right? The season's super long. And realistically, like I think you need to, in my personal life, I'll let you guys in on something. Like I'm an avid believer of pick and choose your battles, right? Like there's certain times you might have to agree to do something you don't want to do, but is the battle worth doing it, right? Like you just got to choose the lesser of 2 evils. And I think like at a certain extent, the players are asking for so much right now, rightfully so. They are the business. You have to make your concession somewhere, right? And this is one of those things where it's like, do we really need the midseason tournament? I don't think we need it. So why are we going to force the issue on this thing?
Yeah.
That's what I would say. There's bigger fish to fry, like in terms of keeping these guys happy, like as a collective group. Let's not make a new issue. Then we're gonna have to deal. Look at what the MLB is going through right now. Like, that's a real deal. And the NBA is so much more valuable than the MLB is right now. So if there is an issue with some sort of, union, some union issue that comes up, make less problems, I guess is my final thing.
Yeah, and I just want to acknowledge some of the chat that's been going on. Tar Heel Nation, what is up? Seeing Jordan embrace LeBron made me disgusted. We'll probably talk about that a little bit later.
Ridiculous.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. Sean, what is the Charge stance on Putin? We're in a wait-and-see approach here at the Charge. Wait and see.
I can safely say he's probably not the best dude.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, definitely not the best dude. That guy, we got a lot to talk about, or we don't really talk about that stuff, but there is a lot to say about him. But the All-Star game was super lit. Braun did it for Cleveland. This really is for you. Anyway, back to the NBA season tournament. Again, I think Adam Silver said it best in this quote that he talked about here. The tournaments and other sports along the way where players, I'm sure, feel an extra sense of boost of competitiveness around the winning a particular trophy, and that's where we're looking at. It's complicated. So I think like what they're trying to look at is like, how can we make the NBA a little bit more competitive? Because everyone likes competition, right? You want to prove that you're the best. You want to show that you know what you're doing. You want to show that like you're the best ran organization. And we'll talk about GMs getting shout-outs by LeBron a little bit later in this podcast, or stream, I should say. I think the biggest thing for me is that as much as I would love an NBA in-season tournament, I think, like you said, Pete, like the wear and tear on these guys' bodies is just too much. Like you're already making them play 82 games as it is. I think there should be a reduction to that. And now you're going to add an extra, let's say it's like, I don't know how you qualify for this tournament, but if every team is in it, there's a lot of games to be played if that's the case. And so I'm not necessarily a big fan of that. I think that they should find a way to like really, I don't know what the right word is, but they need to find a way to lessen the games and also not
compromise.
Compromise. They need a compromise because it is frustrating if I'm a fan or honestly if I'm a player and then Adam Silver said, hey, you got to play this game now. Like it's just not what I would want as a player, and I'm sure the coaches don't want that either. Like nobody in the league wants this besides the owners and the commissioner who works with the owners.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, this is one of those things where, alternatively to what I said, which is compromising by just not having it, you could solve two birds with one stone. What if they got rid of like 15 games off the schedule and said this is like a 10 game equivalent tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they could have the award be something huge. What if it's a guaranteed spot in the playoffs? So if you go really hard, right, the whole way through this tournament, you make it in. Or they can lessen the award by just a little bit, but have it be close, where it's like that's one of the play-in teams. You guarantee.
I was gonna say that
spot. Like that would be.
What do you think about that?
I would be very. I would be very interested to see what teams did for that, like how that improved the trade deadline as far as how many deals get done. Right.
Yeah.
If you're coming into this tournament with that level of award, you could be a dog water team and technically say, dude, screw this. We want to be good. We want to go to the playoffs right now. We have this kid that's, how good is he? Let's go figure it out, right? We're going to make a trade for a big guy in this tournament and go for it. That would be fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm kind of at is like if you were able to get like, if we look at the NBA standings currently and we'll take a look. I could spell it today. If we look at like the East and Western, like the Orlando Magic, the Pistons, the Pacers, the Knicks, a little bit in there as well. You got the Rockets, Thunder, Kings, Pelicans. Like if any of those teams, like let's say the Rockets, for example, because we're huge, I would say, advocates of the Rockets with their young core and what they're trying to build towards. Like, I think it would be fun to see like Jalen Green and the rest. I mean, not in the dunk contest, but the rest of the Houston Rockets to like go into the play-in game and like be able to go against like a LeBron James's team or the Clippers or even the Timberwolves, who are making a good push right now in the league. But it'd be fun to see like the Rockets get into there and play one of these teams and see what they can do. See if they can make a magical run into the into like the first round series and maybe make an upset that way. I think there's a lot of benefits to that. The only issue that I have with it is that they need to find a way to reduce games while also adding this tournament, and I just don't think that there's going to be a compromise to that from the owners. I think the owners, just like the MLB owners, want the 100 and what how many games do they play in the MLB? 162.
62, yeah.
Yeah, so they play 162 games there. The NBA owners don't want to get rid of the 82 games because that's time for the owners to get money from season tickets or ticket revenue, league pass, in commissions and concessions, jersey merchandise. Like they don't want to get rid of that opportunity, and so that is where it's kind of like where the owner's going to bend and break for that, and where the player's going to bend and break for it. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, and realistically, you'd have interesting scenarios. I mean, where teams like, say, the Lakers, right? They saw that playoff in game entry spot and said, "Screw it, dude. We're going all in. LeBron is going to play 40, however many minutes he's going to play a game.
Yeah.
Right? He's going to play every single second. And then we're going to win it, and he's going to sit out the second half of the season, right?" I don't think the Lakers, or I don't think the NBA would appreciate that, which is maybe where you'd have some contention on the issue, but that would be an incentive for teams, right? Older, veteran-heavy teams say, we're going to win this tournament, and then it's 2 play-in games. We're not worried about those games. Those teams are bottom-barrel teams, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd be a fascinating approach, because then think about it. You give LeBron half a season rest going into the play-in games, there's nobody stopping him. Nobody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we saw it the whole bubble tournament. So, I don't know. I'm also a purist. Like, I think, why wouldn't we just keep it the way it is? It is only getting better as the years go on.
Exactly.
Why would we fix something if it's not broken, right? The league has only gotten better since we've been alive watching it. So, I don't know if we need a tournament. I would honestly, despite all our great ideas that we've come up with here, Bernie, I really think it's better off the way it is. No tournament, maybe shorten a few games, and I don't know. I would consider getting rid of most of All-Star Weekend minus the All-Star game or whatever they substitute.
Yeah.
Just give it as like, here's like a week break in the middle of the season. Everybody go clear your heads, get some time away. Like, nobody enjoys those events as much as the production that gets put on, right?
Exactly.
So, I don't know, make everybody happy and us all like a week to not watch basketball, and they don't have to go play games and do events they don't want to do.
Yeah. And let us know in the comment section down below, what do you guys make of that? Are you guys a fan of the in-season tournament, or do you think that the NBA should stay the way that it is? Next topic we got to talk about, Pete, is of course LeBron James. LeBron James is in the news not because he hit the big shot, is because of what was said earlier in the All-Star break. LeBron,
a lot.
It is. LeBron wants to play with Bronny. We've known this for months. We've known this for years. He wants to play with his son on an NBA team, and basically said, "Hey, whatever team gets Bronny is going to get me." And so, if you're an NBA team, one of these bottom feeder teams, looking into, the next, not next year, but the year after, if you're a team looking at like, hey, we could get LeBron James if we draft Bronny, are you going to be willing to pull the trigger on that, Pete, and get Bronny on your team to get LeBron James there?
All right, so there's 2 caveats, right? Like, the first being who's the real top end talent in that draft, right?
Yeah.
Are we talking Anthony Bennett's draft, right? Because then guess what? I don't care if it's 42-year-old LeBron, 41-year-old, whatever. I'm taking him, right? The only reason I wouldn't take him is if there is a player that is just generational, right? Like, if this is a draft with Kevin Durant or Luka Doncic, right? Like, and you can go back. We were screaming from the mountaintops that Luka should have been the number 1 pick that draft, right? Like, he should have been. Obviously, we all know that now, right? That's the type of player I'm thinking, like, I would have to say, all right, I'm going to take this guy over Bronny, right?
Yeah.
The difference here is that most drafts don't have that guy, right? And let's say I'm the owner of a team and I have the power to make this choice, I'm doing this 10 times out of 10. The mere fact of the culture that you're going to be building, potentially, right? if you do it the right way, right? Because
Yeah.
LeBron is probably going to be at a point in his career, dependent upon what team gets Bronny, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's probably not going to be a good team, right? Because
Yeah.
he's probably going to go in the top of the draft. And if that's the case, LeBron is going to have a lot of power going into the situation. Like they're not going to be good enough. But let's say by some miraculous situation, he goes to a good team, and it's just LeBron now entering this established team that got a high draft pick, right? That's even more reason for me to do it, right? Like I want that culture that comes with having a veteran like that, because I personally think that LeBron
Mm-hmm.
going to a good team would understand at that point in his career, he's still going to be incredible.
Yeah.
Like he still is, right? But I do think he would understand that he's going there for Bronny. He's not going to go there and dominate the team like he's done when it's about him,
Yeah.
right? It isn't about him. It's about his son now. Do you think he's going to trade every first-round pick they have for 15 years because he's there? No, he doesn't want Bronny to be on a terrible team, right? So big braining the plan, I'm taking him because then I can keep LeBron in the building after he's retired. I want that. If I'm an owner, if I'm a GM, I want Bronny to be, or I want LeBron to be there as like the father of the team, right?
Yeah.
Like be this veteran presence for the team before and after. We've seen how that impacts certain winning teams, and I think like we have no idea what that's going to mean for a guy like LeBron entering like the first few seasons after he's done playing. That'd be incredible for a good to mid-range team to have that.
Yeah. And I just kind of want to read the quote. He said, "My last year we played with my son." James said, "Wherever Bronny's at, that's where I'll be. I will do whatever it takes to play with my son for 1 year. It's not about the money at this point." And I also want to look at the NBA 2024 draft class because this is where Bronny will be at more than likely, unless they change the high school rule, which I doubt at this point. But according to this mock draft, he's projected to be a 26 overall pick in the first round. Like I have him. If I was to do a real mock draft, I'd probably have him probably from the 14 to 20 something range. So, somewhere in there is where I probably would have Bronny at this point because I need to see a little bit more from his senior year. And, not all players are fully developed at this point anyway, right? We're talking about players.
Are you accounting, sorry to interrupt you, are you accounting having LeBron in that package while you rank him 14 to 26, right? Because like it could change your actual ranking of him as a player. He's not, it's kind of the first time ever.
I wouldn't have, I'm not having LeBron in my rankings. I would more say that this is like a situation where like if you're an NBA team, like especially the 26 range where they have him here currently, like it's probably going to be a team that's really good and just, has an extra draft pick. So, this could be a situation where Bronny goes to a championship winning organization, whatever team is like good that year. We still, it's years away, so we have no idea how NBA teams are going to operate or what they're going to look like in the next couple of years. But like
even if Bronny's going to be good for that matter.
Exactly. You never know about Bron. I mean, he's still only a junior in high school. He has so many years to grow and develop and become a player that maybe he's not done growing his potential yet. So this is one of these situations where I think like it would be a good thing to like, especially if Bronny is rated here, why not take a chance on Bronny and just get LeBron with you on your team? I mean, again, you're not getting the prime LeBron James you once had back in, the 2012s or 2007. Like, you're not getting that LeBron James, but you're getting a LeBron James that's a smart player that may not be playing a lot of minutes at this point in his career, but will definitely be a player that could produce really good things, whether on the court or maybe off the bench as kind of like that role, that kind of like six-man type of role that maybe, especially as an older player, maybe that's what he'll play. Again, he spends so much money on his body. He's playing incredibly well so far. I don't ever see him kind of going down that rabbit hole of, not being a starter. But I think that you could definitely, let's say, for example, it is I'm trying to think, maybe it's the Bucks. The Bucks get the 26th overall pick. They get LeBron and Giannis playing together on a team. That might be an unstoppable duo. And if you can get Bronny, who currently is more of a three-point shooter, kind of like an off-ball guard that can knock down some shots. You get him knocking down some shots as a role player for your team, or get some of these other guys that they have on their team. We don't know where Middleton will be as well. Like, Andrew Holiday for that matter, who's also aging as well as we speak. Like, it could be a potential good matchup for them. But I think that if you're an NBA team, why not do it? It's nothing but good news if you have them on your team.
All right, so I'm gonna push back just a slight bit and just say that I personally would rank Bronny higher for the mere fact that if you're assuredly gonna get LeBron James as well on probably what amounts to with a player like LeBron, like a vet minimum, he's not gonna get a vet minimum, probably even then. But it's gonna be like Sean said in the chat, it's going to be a good contract, most likely. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I would honestly, if I'm a team, say you're a decent team and you manage to get a pick in like I don't know, say you're somewhere between even 6 and 12 in a bad draft, right? Or like an average draftee. I would even say average, like this last year's draft. There's a chance I probably would have drafted him over a couple of those guys at like 10, 11, and 12. The mere fact that if you get Bronny and LeBron, you're not just getting the two of them. You're getting Clutch now as well, right? Clutch has your back too. That's
the Clutch Army.
All those guys, right? You're getting the Clutch Army at that point, right? Like, would I be surprised if you saw crazy free agents start signing at that team that season just because LeBron is now there and he's asking them to come play with him and his son? Of course not. Like, I think that's legitimately going to happen wherever he gets drafted. So in my opinion, I'm taking LeBron. There's like, let's say it's not it's the deepest draft of all time and they have like 7 guys where you might take them number 1 in another draft. Sure, right? I'm going to use my 7th pick on that guy. That is not any draft, right? Most of the 7th round picks you get are guys like, no offense, because now he's balling out, but like Josh Giddey, right? Everybody flamed the Thunder the draft making that pick, right?
Yeah.
That's mostly what you get, though, right? And most of the time, they're not Josh Giddey. Most of the time, they sit on the bench most of the season. Most of the time, their last year Phoenix Suns taking Jalen Smith at 10, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who has already been traded and then I think cut from that team, right? Like, I'm spending a 10 overall pick, even if the guy is maybe a bottom of the first round draft pick, potential. I'm taking that pick. I'm taking him.
Really quick, Sean says Bronny's going to Gonzaga. I am also LeBron's kid, so you get me as well in the package. I mean, it's a whole Clutch Army. You get Savannah, you get Gloria, you get
Tar Heel Nation.
You get
his anger.
Yeah, you got a lot of different things. And again, this is just kind of a small topic to just kind of continue the conversation about LeBron and Bronny. So let us know in the comment section down below, what do you guys make of LeBron and Bronny potentially going to the same team in the next couple of years? Alrighty, Pete, we got to move on to the next story. And this one is a little bit more dramatic. Of course, what is LA without the drama, right? You have Hollywood there. You have, the best, like, theater production there. We got to talk about this. Clutch, GM, Clutch Sports, not happy with each other. They are pissed. And again, these next two topics are going to be combined together. The Lakers' soap opera-like season, and of course this is from Clutch Points, doesn't seem to be slowing down in any way. LeBron James joined the team to help them win the title. Obviously they did already. But according to Eric Princess of Bleacher Report, James representatives at Clutch Sports are not pleased with the Lakers. Their relationship is at its lowest point, an utterly disappointing season. The person who reported this said that the team may have to make a key decision on James this summer, since he can be a free agent after next season. We all know that they're not happy about Pelinka because Pelinka refused to trade Westbrook and a future first-round pick for Houston guards and Clutch client John Wall. Pete, this to me, I'm not sure what to think of it. There's also an update that says Stephen A. Smith, also on First Take, went to say on First Take on the air that Rich Paul denies these allegations. He denies these rumors are even true. So knowing all that, Pete, what is your takeaway of this story of Clutch and Rob Pelinka? Is there something there? What do you make of it?
I mean, definitely, yes, right? Like, this is the thing that happens every time with LeBron, right? Like, we get hit with this, and then we debate if it's real or not, and then we find out in 6 months that, of course it was real, right? Mm-hmm. Once Rob Pelinka's fired, which is going to happen if LeBron is going to stay in Los Angeles, right? Now it's at the point, of course, it's one or the other, right? I
Mm-hmm.
would say going into this off season. It's pretty interesting though, just in the sense that I question Rob Pelinka from the particular place of like, why are you here if this isn't what you were expecting, right? Like, if you really wanted to GM a team for the long term, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which is what he's doing, right? Because by making a sound choice, which is I would say what Rob Pelinka did was a sound choice for the Lakers as a franchise, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
trading your last first round pick in the 2000 or the 2020s, right? Or
Right.
close to it. Or a guy, John Wall, who has the same gigantic contract that Russell Westbrook has. He almost certainly is not going to opt out of it. He's going to be even less tradable than Russell Westbrook is a year from now. And you're one pick lighter, right? So you solve none of your problems long term. I guess my point is this, right? This is what you have to expect if you're the GM of LeBron James's team. You have
Yeah.
to be ready for this. And you have to be prepared to just say, if I don't want the drama, which you know there will be if you don't do what they ask of you, why
Yeah.
are you here? What are you there for? Make the
Yeah.
trade or don't be there. Go if you, because I'm conflicted in the sense that, like, from an actual fan's perspective or somebody that really appreciates the inner workings of these trades and what it takes to build a franchise, right? Rob Pelinka made the sound choice. He really did. I mean, Russell Westbrook is not going to be, I mean, he's not that much worse than John Wall. We haven't even seen John Wall play in a year, right? So
Yeah.
when it comes down to it, like, you cannot keep trading your future away if you're this franchise. The question is, you knew this is what you had in LeBron, right?
Yep.
Like, this is what it is. So what are you doing? It's kind of one of
Yeah.
those things where you just have to question, why are you even in this position if this isn't what you're prepared to do? That's all I have to wonder.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, Pete. Like, we look at the situation again. I want to read what Stephen A. Smith had to say on First Take. He said, Rich Paul called me yesterday, asked me to quote him on the story about him, and essentially them wanting the Lakers to trade Russell Westbrook and a first round pick to Houston for John Wall. He wanted me to state emphatically that there's absolutely positively no truth to that whatsoever. He never did that. He did not do that. And we all know that I think he did do that. I think that, when it comes to the Lakers, they're always, and especially Rich Paul and LeBron, they're kind of involved in this drama now. Is that, like, they want to make sure that there's no negative spin on the PR of, like, LeBron James's decisions, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
because we all know that the trade that was originally going to happen for Rob Pelinka was they were going to trade away Kuzma, they were going to trade Montrezl Harrell, KCP, all the way to go to Sacramento for, I believe, Buddy Hield, and I don't know what other, like, bunch of players.
I think
Obviously
it was
not.
really Buddy Hield.
Yeah, it was
I
really
think that was
Buddy
pretty
Hield.
much it.
I mean, if they would have known that Tyrese Halliburton was on the market, I probably would have looked into that. But nevertheless, again, like, I just think that when it comes to all this, this is, LeBron's creation. Like, I love LeBron. I think that he's, obviously a GOAT, but at the same time, this is what he created here in LA. Like, this is what this is what he creates in Cleveland too. I mean, we remember that team with Isaiah Thomas, and then they traded away Isaiah Thomas and was able to get Jordan. I can't remember if they got Jordan Clarkson, but they got Rodney Hood. They got Larry Nance Jr. Like, they got a bunch of those players.
They got Clarkson in that deal too.
They got Clarkson in that deal. I mean, we remember that team, and it just wasn't enough. And that's why LeBron left, and ultimately kind of left Cleveland a mess, but also was a blessing in disguise for them because they were able to get their guy in Evan Mobley and then rebuild this team with Darius Garland as well. So they have a good core nucleus for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the problem is, and this always happens with the LA Lakers, just because LA, and we see it with the Dodgers, we see it with the Rams, they're not a team that's looking to rebuild, right? LA, you're never, like, especially as an LA team, you're not given the chance to rebuild. You're not given the opportunity to rebuild, because look what happened, right? They got Lonzo Ball, they got Brandon Ingram, they got Julius Randle, they got all these players that were nice, but they never seemed to mesh well together. And that's why they don't want, because they don't have anyone in the front office like Sam Presti or any of these other GMs that are geniuses. They don't have any of those guys in the front office. They obviously have Rob Pelinka, who's more of a, I would say more of like a used car salesman. Like, he's trying to get like all the fancy people, the flashy people, and really try to create an environment there for them. And so, again, I think that Rich Paul did try to look for a trade. To me, it's just like I think that had to happen. Because obviously working with Westbrook is just not working for the LA Lakers. Like, no matter what they have done so far, it just has not seemed to work for them. And so they needed to find a way to get rid of Russell Westbrook. But the problem with that is, you go to, Houston Rocket for John Wall, like you talked about, Pete. He hasn't played in a year. He hasn't played this season, if much at all. And so, like, you're really going to bring this guy in who hasn't played all season, hasn't really played any meaningful minutes to now go into Lakerland and try to do stuff. I mean, it's the pressure of being the third wheel for LeBron. It just doesn't. Only some players are able to handle it. We even saw Kevin Love not able to handle it for so long. Chris Bosh, I think, is the only third wheel that was able to handle it.
Yeah. About Ilgauskas. I think he did a pretty good job backing me down.
Well, you got Sadrunas and Bergeau?
See, the only thing I would push back just a little bit, right, is in the sense that maybe they know John Wall, like, he is a clutch client, right? Mm-hmm. They're not going to trade for him if they know he's washed, right? They wouldn't do that. Like, if anybody has the intel on what he's looking like behind closed doors and, like, open gym, right, they know. So I would say there's that, right? The other thing, and this is maybe, like, I think this is where LeBron haters would really take issue with what I'm saying, but it's not really an excuse for him. It's more a matter of, like, it's just the way life is, right? If you let somebody get away with something for so long, it becomes commonplace. Not only is it commonplace, they think it's expected of them, right? And it comes time to make a big decision, and they're ready. They've been making big decisions the whole time. Now you finally say, I don't really like how the last few decisions you decided to make for us went, and now I'm going to say I'm taking my ball and I'm going home, right? I'm done with this. It's my turn to take the wheel, right?
Right.
That never works for anybody.
Yeah.
Under any circumstance. Like, it doesn't matter how humble the person is that you're talking to. It doesn't matter how great they are, how bad they are. Nobody ever reacts well to that. And especially when it's LeBron James and his company that he owns behind closed doors and makes all the decisions for that are maybe solely created to help him win championships, right? Like, if you are going to do that to all of them, you have to understand that you just signed your death note, right? Like, you're done at that point, right? And it's also just like you can't put the genie back in the bottle. Like, you already let LeBron become a GM. You can't take it away from him, or he's just going to go do it somewhere else. So I really do fault Rob Pelinka for most of this. Like, because I would argue a little bit that he's not a good GM. I don't think he is a good GM. I do not think he is a good GM. I just do not think he is a bad GM either. I don't think he is one of the worst. I really don't. It's like, you look at the roster they constructed for the bubble was impeccably put together for LeBron's play style, right? Now we could question how much of that was LeBron's choice, how much of the whatever, right?
Yeah.
And now this is coming from the biggest LeBron stan on planet Earth, right? One of them. I can also be realistic and say LeBron is also the one that just decided to go for Russell Westbrook. So did he really put that bubble team together as much as we think he did? Because it doesn't seem like he did a very good job of it with Russell Westbrook. So I question a little bit, like, where did some of the smaller choices along the way lead to more of their successes, right? And I'm not saying that that's Rob Pelinka. I'm just saying, even coming from a big LeBron fan, you can't just say all the bad stuff, that's Pelinka's fault. All the good stuff, that is LeBron's doing, right? Because that's not reality. It's just not, And when it comes down to it, like, the Lakers stuck with Rob Pelinka over Magic Johnson, right? Or whatever that situation was, because that was super weird then, right? But they made that choice. They could have been out of Rob Pelinka then.
Yeah,
it's their fault. Whatever this situation is their fault.
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers have to ultimately take the blame for this. Again, especially Jeannie Buss, and Rob Pelinka to some extent as well. It's just like, you're the ones making the decisions at the end of the day. My only thing for that is really thinking about, I remember 2 years ago when we were having the same conversation, with Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson. Everybody was calling for Rob Pelinka's head, right? Everybody was saying, Rob Pelinka out. he's not doing a good job. We should get rid of him and other things like that. And then all of a sudden they win a championship in the bubble, and everything's all forgiven. And I think the Lakers, for better or for worse, have a short-term memory when it comes to their championships. And they expect to be like in the championship every single year. They expect to be fighting for the championships in their respected games. NFL, NBA, MLB. The reason why they went and got Mookie Betts. The reason why they went and got Matt Stafford. I mean, they go after the stars. They go after the people that can help them win. And that's just kind of the reality of being an LA team, is that you have to go for the stars. They cater to
those stars too.
Yeah, I mean, they cater to the stars. They cater to the fans. I mean, the fans are the ones that. I don't know if you've been on Twitter or you've been in LA when the Lakers are playing, or when the Rams, for how little fans they have. It doesn't matter what team it is. Like, they are so passionate about their sports teams. Like, they will crucify anybody. They'll crucify anybody if you talk bad about them. And so, like, at the end of the day, I think when we have to look at this is that I think it was good for the Lakers not to trade away Russell Westbrook for John Wall. I think that would have been a mistake. You don't, especially because you don't know how long LeBron is going to play for you. He could just say, screw it, I'm not staying until I'm going to leave next year. I think he's under contract for one more year, but after that,
after this,
yeah. So it's like, why would I want to trade and mortgage my 2027 pick when I know I'm going to be screwed for the next couple of years because we've traded away that first round pick each and every year when it becomes available to trade? And so,
you already signed up for it, though.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I could say. Like, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah,
I get the logic, and this is coming from a Knicks fan, right? Like, all the fans, everybody was demanding a trade, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've done it up until this point. You've made those trades happen every step of the way until now. And now you said no, right? Mm-hmm. You chose to put the onus on you, Rob Pelinka. Rob Pelinka chose in that moment to say, now everything that happens from this point on is my fault, right? He literally put the knife in his own back. Like, I could not believe it when I saw that. Like, this coming out, whether it's correct or not, right? He put the kibosh on this trade. Did, right? I think it's pretty safe to say it would have happened if not for Pelinka saying no.
Yeah.
He just accepted all blame. Maybe he did it on purpose. I think that's a good question. Maybe he said, I'll take getting fired this offseason. Whatever. I'm still going to get paid. Right? Yeah. I'm tired of being LeBron's sideshow, right? So I'm just going to say this is not going to work. And if we get better, I get the credit. And if we, tank, we continue to tank, I'm out of here and I get paid.
Yeah, exactly. I just think that when it comes down to it, I think Rob Pelinka will be happy in any role that he's in, whether he is an agent again, or whether he is a GM. I just think that I think that maybe Pelinka's over the LeBron clutch era of the Lakerland. I think that that's where it's coming to. I'm curious to see how Jeannie Buss feels about it. Obviously, she's not really posting about her Lakers anymore. She's more posting about her dogs and other things like that on Instagram and social media. So, we're going to see what happens here. Again, when you're in LA, you're here for a good time, not a long time. And so when it comes down to it, I don't think Lakerland is like a place where GMs should look to rest their laurels on, or like be I'm going to be here for years. I mean, they got rid of Jerry West, if you remember right. Like, they got rid of him.
They almost got rid of Kobe too. It almost happened a couple times. So
yeah, and so like they're trying to move on and try and do their thing. So we're gonna see what happens. For the rest of this seems to be beef. And again, we'll talk a little bit about this next topic in a second about LeBron James throwing shade to Rob Pelinka. But I just want to read some comments here really quick. Tar Heel Nation said Pete will celebrate once LeBron signs with a 2-year, $90 million contract with the Knicks in July.
And I'd take it. I would not. I'll not lie to you. I would rather be average with LeBron James than average without LeBron James. Straight up.
Yeah.
And to be straight up honest with you, too, we'd be a really good team right now if we had LeBron James on our team.
Yeah. I mean, we all remember the decision. It was like a crazy time. The Knicks, the Nets, Miami, Cleveland. I mean, there were so many teams involved. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to see that again.
Oh, man. We had him, too. It will never be closer than that to having somebody like LeBron. I still stand by that as a Knicks fan.
What about the Durant? Close. What about the Durant one?
I don't think we were. I think LeBron's name was like his pen was hovering above the paper.
I think the pen was hovering above Durant's.
I don't know. I think it was close too.
And then Kyrie convinced
I think
him.
they were both very close, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just think LeBron like really has his whole career talked about the Garden and talked about how special of a place it is. KD will make mention of it, but not the way LeBron does. I really think he wanted to play in New York. I really do.
Yeah. And so, Pete, as we kind of wind down the next couple of minutes before we move on to the next topic, do you think that Pelinka stays? Does he leave? Like, where do you see his future as it pertains to being a Lakers GM?
I think it's gonna heavily depend on. We're gonna find out in a weird way, right? Like one way or the other, it's either gonna be Rob or LeBron, right? Pelinka or LeBron. I think we'll know as soon as the offseason starts. If they keep Pelinka, I think that means LeBron is leaving.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I really don't think they're going to fire Rob Pelinka if LeBron leaves, no matter what. They won't do both. So I'm not sure. We'll see. Like, if LeBron kind of gets closer to the offseason, they're still, like, underperforming, not a playoff team, not even a play-in team. I think we'll get like the KD final season with the Warriors where we know he's leaving, right? Yeah. Like the whole last month of the season, it's like, oh, this dude's out of here, right?
Yeah.
And if at that point, Pelinka's staying for sure. So, if I had to pick right now, I think that's what's going to happen. I think LeBron is not going to be playing in Los Angeles next season. I just can't see this team pulling together. Just can't see this team pulling together to turn out the second half of the season with how daunting West is, how daunting the whole league is, to be fair. They're just not good enough. Like Anthony Davis, I'm sorry, Anthony Davis fans out there, mentality is not there for that guy. Yeah. It's not there. It was kind of there for the bubble, like enough for them to win, right? It is not there right now. Like, he's been better since he's been back. It's just not there, man. Like, you hear the comments he makes in the media about not wanting to play center, right? Like, their team would be better if he played center, and he just will not do it. He just does not want to do it. I just don't think you can win, and he should be the guy right now. Like, the prime of his career, right? LeBron is a freak, so he's still technically kind of in his prime, right? But he's not in his prime. It should be AD's team.
Yeah.
He's just not that guy. So, and that is what you're working with, and the rest of the roster is what it is. I just don't see it getting better for them, man. I really don't.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to you have a team where LeBron maybe is on the fence and looking at his options and saying, dang, man, I could go this place and make this much money and set up maybe the future of, whatever my son and I are going to do in a couple of years. I don't think Anthony Davis is the guy that's going to sit LeBron down and have the conversation, say, hey, let's run it back, right? That's not him. I don't think that's going to happen. There's nobody on this team that can do that. Also, Westbrook tries to have the meeting and LeBron laughs his way out of the door, right? So I think he's gone, man. I don't think they're good enough.
Yeah, and let's kind of move on to the next topic and really kind of add on to that, and we can add on to this video, is really the fact of, LeBron James's passive-aggressive comments to Rob Pelinka during the All-Star weekend. One, he called the Lakers a lackluster campaign, a hellstorm of a season, a true statement that is reflected in their 27-31 record. He lauded all sorts of nowhere praises on Oklahoma City general manager Sam Presti, a move that came in response to a question about Josh Giddey. It was curious at best and passive-aggressive towards the Lakers general manager, while Pelinka at worst. He raved the Cavs general manager Kobe Altman, who is kind of weird because he did not like him, from what I remember, highlighting all the draft picks and trades that has sparked his old team renaissance without him. He also talked about the Los Angeles Rams general manager Les Snead. He also made it known heading into February 10th trade deadline that he believed the Lakers needed some reshuffling when they were routed by the Milwaukee in the home game a couple days ago. And again, so there's a lot of, I would say, hints for Rob Pelinka's basically going to get his pink slip. I just don't see him staying there, man. Like if the Lakers, are a bad team once again for a second year in a row where they get out in the first round, I can't see him staying. I can't see him trying to. I can't see a genie bust with the Lakers justifying keeping Rob Pelinka if they know that they can't acquire the assets that they need to keep a guy like LeBron James happy. Because like we talked about, like his playing time and like his career time is so short already, and you know that he wants to play with Bronny. It's like I just don't see him trying to sign anywhere. I don't see it, Pete. I just don't see Rob Pelinka surviving another year if they have another mediocre season, which they are on the verge of. I would say they're on the verge of a collapse, and that's not to be hyperbolic for Lakers fans who probably feel that way. But I can't be on the side. And again, I'm not a big fan of the passive aggressiveness. Obviously, I think LeBron James is probably talking to Rob to his face about like, yo, we need to make some moves here. We can't just be lackadaisical, and then it turns into, oh, we're actually searching in the buy-in market. And they don't even get the guy that they were, projected to get in Goran Dragic. He actually ended up going to the Nets just today.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that as well. Like, that's a great point guard, a veteran point guard that could add a lot of dynamics to this Lakers team. You get Russell at the 2 now. You get LeBron James at the 3. You get AD at the 4 when he's healthy. And then you get, I don't even know who they have at center anymore. They could go Horton Tucker and LeBron James, or Horton Tucker and Anthony Davis. But I'm at a loss right now for where the Lakers are going to be at this season, because I think that it really is telling that the writing is on the wall for these guys. The writing is on the wall for Rob Pelinka to lose his job. It's on the wall for anybody in that organization that was probably, I would say, a Rob Pelinka disciple and basically just going to get the boot.
Yeah. I mean, because I think let's read between the lines just a little bit on a couple of LeBron's comments, right? Like, I would say, if you're going to sense the common trend between Sam Presti and Les Snead, they both are very different philosophies, right? Les Snead is the classic, the F those picks, right? Quote. And Pelinka is F that, we want all the picks, right? Like, he's the opposite. So I think the common trend between the two of them, though, is that neither of them are afraid to make a move, right? To win or to become better, right?
Yeah.
Like, opposites in their mentality, other than the fact that they're constantly making trades, right?
Right.
And that is a very common trend amongst LeBron James's teams, right? He is always shuffling the deck if he needs to, making moves, replacing players with different guys, finding the fits he needs to middle of the season whenever he can. So I think that's interesting. Here's my next step, though, right? Because I think Sam Presti is a very interesting choice for why he would say Sam Presti. Right? Maybe I'm going to start at the top of the most likely, and I'm going to do 3 points going down to the least likely. One, LeBron is recognizing that with the lack of picks on the Lakers, Bronny is not coming to the Lakers. That's not happening. There's no way he can come there, right? Or does he probably think Rob Pelinka will make the moves necessary to get Bronny when it comes time for Bronny, right? So that's point one, right? Point two is that maybe he's shuffling the deck in a sense that he's going to compliment Rob Pelinka and say, maybe that situation's not that bad for me, right? Maybe it's not. Like, somewhere like that is maybe more what I mean, right? Not specifically the Thunder, but somewhere that's young, has a lot of picks. It's going to be a young team for Bronny, not for LeBron, but for Bronny.
Right.
Because realistically, like, I think that we could probably ascertain that's probably LeBron's like primary goal, right? I think he's going to come into that first year, and we talked about this, I mentioned this earlier, but like, he's not going to go all in for his one season with Bronny. I don't think. Like, unless they miraculously, like you said, get drafted to some team, like they get drafted. Bronny gets drafted to Milwaukee, right? Like, okay, that's one situation. That's probably not going to happen, though. It probably isn't. So maybe he is looking at a team like the Thunder and saying, hey, they have a lot of picks. They can do a lot as far as getting better in the time that I will be on their team without Bronny, and they'll have the assets to get it done when it comes time. So I think that's really like, I think it was an interesting choice, man. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's so calculated. It's so calculated.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like all the decisions, especially when you have that prestige and power, like LeBron James does around the league as being the
Yeah.
ambassador, like you just know that there's stuff you have to read between the lines with some of the stuff, man. It's like he's obviously not excited about the way the Lakers have played this season. I don't think anybody's denying that. I don't think anybody's trying to hide the fact that no one's excited about the way the Lakers are playing. But I do agree with you in that sense, Pete. Like they look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, they have so many draft picks that's coming up. They could be like, well, if, especially if they get the pieces around them, uh, they get those pieces going. Like, does LeBron James go to Oklahoma City Thunder and just play there if Bronny gets drafted there? Like that's something that could potentially happen. And I think a lot of people aren't seeing that as well. I think a lot of people are just seeing the passive aggressiveness and basically like, it's just shade at LeBron, or sorry, shade at Rob Pelinka. But like you said, it could be.
I think it's more than that.
It's
I
more.
really do.
Yeah, I agree with you in that sense. Like, I think it's more than that. I think they just wanna. They look at all these pieces. They look at everything. I think the biggest takeaway is that LeBron James is obviously not happy with the Lakers' performance this season. I think that anybody with a common sense can understand that. Like, I think everyone would be upset as well. But I think, like you said, I think it honestly kind of goes to your point with Kobe Altman as well, Pete. What you said about Sam Presti. Like, you get those draft picks, you do a good job of like rebuilding the team, and they've done a great job since LeBron James has left to like be the number 4 seed. I think they're the number 4 seed or even number 2 seed in the. I need to look at the standings again, but they're a top 5 team in the NBA currently, and so like when you are a top 5 team in the NBA, LeBron James is going to take notice of that. He's going to see Kobe Altman. It's funny because Kobe Altman didn't really do a good job when LeBron was on the team. I don't know if this is like the rest of the league having their agenda against LeBron, but I do think that this is going to be a very interesting scenario to play out for when LeBron James is the free agent. And we can really get to know the nooks and crannies of the relationship between Pelinka and LeBron James.
Exactly. Yeah, because like I think what he's saying is like there's 3 points to it, right? Like I was mentioning. One is that like the Les Snead is what he wanted the Lakers to be, right? He created the Rams in the vision that LeBron wanted, right?
Right.
We're constantly going to have these stars shuffling in and out. We're going to get new guys when we need to on a dime if that's what it takes to win. That's what we're going to go do. But it wasn't that, right? So then he mentions Sam Presti as maybe an option of somewhere to go / the type of team he could be looking at for what he wants in the future. And then I think the Kobe Altman Cleveland is just another potential lining up of like, yeah, I could go there too. Like that is the type of team I want to be a part of. And it just so happens to be Cleveland, right? Like what better ending? Because realistically, like here's another question I wanted to ask you getting into this topic, right?
Right.
Because this could be me. I would say some people would think this is revisionist history, but did you really see LeBron ending his career with the Lakers? Because I don't really think I ever did. Like, he never felt like a Laker to me, truly. Oh. And I don't know what Lakers fan, like, I think probably Lakers fans drank the Kool-Aid and, convinced themselves that this dude is, gold and purple till he dies. Like, but I just don't think I ever got that sense. Like, he is not a Laker in the traditional. He's not going to be James Worthy doing the post-game shows talking about how much he loves the Lakers, right? Exactly. James Worthy loves the Lakers. Kobe Bryant loved the Lakers, right? LeBron he's a mercenary. Like, he's there because they were the best team for him to accomplish what he wanted to. So I think that this was bound to happen for me. Exactly. But my question, I guess, did you really see him finishing with the Lakers?
No, I don't think anybody did. I think, he doesn't really scream Laker, right? I think that, I think if he would have won the championship last year or, I think the first season, I think he would have been like inaugurated as a Laker for life, right? Or like, one of the all-time Laker greats. But he didn't win the championship. He won the one in the bubble. I just don't see it because... Or like I don't see him ending his career in LA because I think that there's another move to be made, and I think he's looking for that move, and that's why he's trying to praise all the GMs to maybe even butter them up as well and be like, hey, you take me, you get Bronny, or you get Bronny, you get me, and these other situations as well. It's like praise the GM because they know that they can put pieces around even maybe this might be like a low key tampering, Pete. Like if we think about it, he's trying to
Reverse
say that
tampering?
like, yeah, reverse tampering. Like hey, I
Get
love what
me,
Sam
boys.
Presti. Yeah, like I love what you're doing, Sam Presti. If that roster's right, I might come to you. Or like,
Genuinely, I agree with you. I really think that's what this was more than shade at Rob Pelinka. Like a lot of people are taking it.
yeah,
Like, of course he was doing that. He doesn't even need to read. You don't even need to read between the lines. Like I think that's so
exactly.
much less of why he said it. Like he is coming out making the point. I don't need to be in Los Angeles to be LeBron James,
Right.
nor will I have what I want. Like because one way or the other, LeBron James, love him, hate him, had a vision of what the Lakers were going to be. He wanted to
Yeah,
be a movie star, run Los Angeles, take over LA, and have it be like, continue the legacy of these type of players
exactly.
dominating Los Angeles, right? He can do that because he's LeBron, but it really is not. It's like almost the same way that probably KD felt with Golden State, right? Golden State is Stephen Curry's team, right? Los Angeles, the Lakers will never be LeBron's team. Like he
Yep.
will never be the guy there. So I think for him, it's a matter of this isn't all it was cracked up to be when I was, convincing myself, but also I accomplished what I wanted to. I won a championship there. I don't need to be here anymore. And all the things I wanted didn't happen. So
Yeah.
it's time to go somewhere else. And he wants to own a team. We know
Yeah.
that. He's said it 150 times, right?
Yep.
I think that would have happened already with the Lakers. Like everybody had their under the table conspiracy theories that he had done that when he
Yeah.
went to the Lakers, right? That would have come out now if that was the case.
Exactly.
Would have come out now if he got some percentage or something like that. That has not happened.
Yep.
So I don't know, man. Opening the door back to some of these more small market teams to say, hey, you want me for life? Maybe you can have me if you want me, my son or whoever, right? So I don't know, man. It's interesting. If I had to bet, though, I do not think we will see LeBron James in a Los Angeles Lakers jersey after this season. I don't think so. I would not
Yeah.
bet on it, but I don't know. It smells like the end of Cleveland again to me.
Yeah. Exactly. It seems. We'll see what happens, man. I think this is going to be a very interesting situation as we continue to monitor the LeBron James storyline, and seeing what happens next, man. It's going to be a very interesting scenario to kind of look at and see what will happen to LeBron James in the coming future. All right, Pete, let's move on to the next topic. We got to talk about Mr. Bothell himself, Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine.
Levine.
Zach LaVine on free agency. I should be getting what I deserve. So, Chicago's Bulls All-Star Zach LaVine is looking forward to being an unrestricted free agent for the first time. Even more so, LaVine looks forward to getting paid what he thinks he has earned. I think we'll all get what we deserve at the level we play out for our team or around the league. I think I stack up with everybody at that level, LaVine said. We'll let the chips fall. Is that the max the goal? And I don't know if that's the goal, but I should be getting what I deserve. Under the previous Bulls front office, LaVine has had an offer sheet with the Sacramento Kings to get his current contract. Chicago matched that offer sheet. Then LaVine blossomed to an All-Star. Now with DeRozan as a fellow All-Star, Bulls are winning, and LaVine said that's why he and Chicago are aligned moving forward. That's why I don't have to talk about it, LaVine said. I'll go in the offseason about after this year and be satisfied with what I think I'll get, and I'll be happy for me and my family. So, Pete, in any sense, in any way, does Zach LaVine end up on a new team next year, or does he stay with the Bulls?
He definitely could end up on another team. I honestly thought there was a chance that excuse me, I thought the DeRozan signing was kind of like, I think I even said this on stream coming into this season. It was the reason why I personally had the Bulls ranked lower than a lot of people coming in after all their
Yeah.
signings they had. My opinion on the matter was that they were signing DeRozan as a backup for Zach LaVine leaving. Right?
Ooh.
This is not the first time Zach LaVine has made this same comment. He said
Yeah.
this during the Olympics. He said this going into the offseason last season too. So he's felt this way for a minute now and has not gotten the contract that he feels is deserved. So Yeah, he definitely could leave because he's going to get a max deal,
Yeah.
whether Chicago wants to pay him that or not. He's going to get it somewhere. So I don't know. The question here's my bigger thing though. I think he genuinely, and I'm a big Zach LaVine critic. I have criticized him his whole career, right? To be totally honest with you, right? And on this stream in particular, I have always chatted
Right.
maybe a tad reckless about Zach LaVine, talking about I didn't think he was that guy. Don't really feel that way anymore. Like he has proved me wrong in the sense that he has gotten so much better
Yeah.
on all facets of his game. I felt for a long time he was only getting better at like the flashy stuff, the flashier part of basketball. And we know now that that's just not the case. Like he is a
Yeah.
much better defender than he's ever been before right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is a much more well-rounded scorer right now than he's ever been before. He's only gotten
Yeah.
better. So he's going to get the max. Man, I think Chicago probably will give it to him now though. Because he's gotten better.
Yeah. I
And just good enough now that I think he probably would want to stay too.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see him leaving Chicago at this current point. I mean, they have a good core nucleus right now with Lonzo, with Levine, with Vucevic, with DeRozan, who signed a good contract. I mean, they have all the pieces to make a big run. They signed Caruso. I think I said that already. If not, I'll mention him
Mm-hmm.
again. Like they have the core nucleus to like get the Chicago Bulls team to where it once was back in the Jordan era. You know, obviously, or maybe not even Jordan, but maybe the D Rose era to be
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
more
Still,
safe.
I mean,
But
where
like
you would want to be.
in the playoffs, being like an Eastern Conference Finals contender, like I see the Bulls in that category. I to me, it's like the Chicago Bulls would be dumb if they don't give him a contract extension or they don't sign him. Like again, this team that you've built right now is centered around Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan getting those shots off. Zach LaVine probably getting the most, in my opinion, just because he's the younger guy, more of the number one on that team. Then you have DeRozan at the number two spot in terms of like shot selection and shot attempts. And so, like to me, like I think Zach LaVine fits this team perfectly. I don't see him, fading away in this team whatsoever. To me, I think if we're gonna look at any team that would be interested in Zach LaVine, I can't think of one. Like I can think of maybe a couple, obviously. Like if we look at the NBA and just like look at the teams, looking at this roster, the Nuggets could be an interesting scenario with him and Jokic.
I mean, I guarantee you the Knicks would pay him the max. I guarantee it.
Yeah, the Knicks are looking at him as well. I think Minnesota gave up on him too early. That could have been a good, nice little team right there with Ant and Levine. Even though I think you want to build for the future, so that team was probably to stay. And
Yeah,
again,
I think he got better going to Chicago too.
I think that there is, I would say, some good things here in going on in Chicago, and so like, why jeopardize that by not paying him and not keep him on the team?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, right? Like the only, two things I would say is like he kind of does play the same exact position as DeMar DeRozan, right? Like their
Mm-hmm.
skills do balance well with each other, though. I'm not saying they don't, right? It's not so much overlap where you couldn't say, yeah, we could, like, why do we need Zach LaVine? Of course, they're not saying that, right? Rosen is mid-range god right now, other than, he literally is mid-range god. He's shooting like 55% total
Yeah.
field goal percent. Zach LaVine's more of an outside shooter. We know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, say somebody doesn't come with some big sign and trade deal for some power forward, right?
Right.
Like, I don't know. It could be, there could be interesting scenarios for them where maybe they address a need, right? Because what if Patrick Williams just isn't getting healthier? They need Patrick Williams, in my opinion, to be a championship contender. I think they're close. They need that guy. Ever that guy, whether it's Patrick Williams or not, they need that guy.
Yeah.
Um,
I
So I
feel
think
you on
there's
that.
I think there's an interesting potential for them, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
the other scenario that's really similar in the league right now, but it is also different because this guy is coming off his rookie contract, is DeAndre Ayton, right?
Yeah.
Still not signed. You don't want to pay him what he's deserving of getting. It's the same scenario. We know DeAndre Ayton is good enough to get the max, or whatever his equivalent of the max is, right?
Yeah.
I would say one of Zach LaVine or DeAndre Ayton will not stay on their team.
Yeah.
Never spells like a good situation when the guy doesn't get their contract and everything else is going right. Like, it doesn't usually pan out great.
Hmm.
I shouldn't say usually. I think it doesn't always pan out as great as some people like to convince themselves, right? Like, good players leave good teams all the time.
Yeah.
Really do. So, I don't know, man. Zach LaVine's not the guy on this team. DeMar DeRozan's the guy.
Ooh. Okay. Okay. I have a little disagreement there, but hey, man, that's the name of the game with sports, man. It's like
You really think Zach LaVine is the guy
I
on
think
this
he's the
team?
guy on this team.
I think you're crazy.
I
Not
think
anymore.
I think DeRozan's having a good season, but I don't think DeRozan is like the number one guy on the team. I think everything goes through Zach.
He is.
I think everything goes through Zach,
I
man.
would strong disagree with that right now. I think DeMar DeRozan is the star of the Chicago Bulls. Like, by all accounts, if they were to choose to play through Zach LaVine and lose, like, there would be uprising. Like, DeMar DeRozan is out of his mind good right now. The ball goes through DeMar DeRozan. He just tied Wilt Chamberlain's record for most 35-point games with a certain field goal percentage in a row, right? That's crazy. That's crazy. They're clearly feeding him the ball. I think their whole offense flows through DeMar.
Yeah. We'll see about that. We'll see about that. And when it comes to the playoffs, we'll see who gets the final shot because I think that'll be telling as to like who this team really belongs to and really who they play through. Again, let us know in the comment section down below. Are you guys thinking that it's Zach LaVine or are you guys thinking that it's DeMar DeRozan they play through? Let us know in the comment section down below. Are you team LaVine or are you team DeRozan? They did play against each other the other night, so it was kind of interesting to talk about that as the Chicago Bulls. And again, like I think at the end of the day, the Chicago Bulls will make the right choice and re-sign him because I don't think that they're going to get rid of him anytime soon. Let's see here. I think that's going to do it for the show. I mean, Pete, this is your time to shine. Do you have any burning questions or anything, topics you want to talk about?
Yeah, very quickly. I just had a question for you. I just wanted to go through because I think it's always fun, like talk about the league as a whole right after the All-Star break in particular, right? So my question to you is this: not going through every team. Let's pick. I want you to pick how many contenders there really are. True contenders, teams you think could win this season, right? Right now, coming out of the bubble or out of the All-Star weekend, who do you think are the teams that can win? As many as you want, like legitimately. I want to hear all of them. I think I have a couple that might surprise you because I think there are a couple like weird teams that could win. Really.
Okay. Sure, I'll go first. Let's see here. Teams I think that could win. Obviously, I think the Golden State Warriors, number one for me. I think that they're just too good, and I think that now that Klay Thompson is back and playing better than ever, I think that they're a team, especially with James Wiseman coming back into the mix. Jonathan Kuminga now starting to become like what we all thought, or at least what I thought he could be. Coming out of that draft class, I just think that they did a good job with that team, and I think they're good. They're the number one to me. I think what sucks is that Phoenix, I think, was there, but they got hurt with Chris Paul now out 6 to 8 weeks with a thumb injury, with a thumb fracture, I should say, not injury, a fracture. So I don't think that they're necessarily in it. Maybe they might be when he comes back, but
They definitely will be. I think
it's just tough because I feel like Chris Paul keeps getting shafted with the injuries in his career. So if he's healthy, I think that they're another contender. If I had to look at these other teams, Utah, no, I think they still need a point guard. Like, they got Mike Conley, but Mike Conley is now older, and I just don't think that team really, as much as they're in the contention right now, I just don't think that they ever will be. I think from the East, I think the Milwaukee Bucks, just because they've retooled and restructured, and their team looks so much better than it did before. So I have the Milwaukee Bucks as probably the number one in the East. The Philadelphia 76ers. You never thought you'd hear me say it, Pete, but they're a team that I think that could be a good contender, especially if Embiid plays the way that he does. And, with James Harden now being a guard that could actually get in there and do some stuff, they're another team that I think it could contend in the East. And I think if I had like just a random team to pick for like who could be that next team, let's see here. I would love it to be the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think that losing Sexton and Rubio in the same season just hurts them, and they had to make some trades. And even though they were good trades, it just I think that they're still missing something there in in Cleveland. And so that I can't really have them as like a top team, but I'd probably go with
that one's interesting.
I would probably go with the Bulls as the next team. I think that they're playing very well. So those are kind of my teams right now.
Okay, those are fair. How many was that total? I lost count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5.
5 teams. Okay, so I definitely have more than that. I definitely do. For the easy ones, I think Phoenix is the best team in the league. Barring like Chris Paul's injury gets, set back or whatever. But I think like he should be healthy at 6 to 8 weeks. He should be healthy by the time the playoffs come around. I think they're the best team in the league right now. Golden State, I would say, is also there, obviously. I think Memphis is pretty close, man. I think they're pretty close.
I think they're missing a piece.
Of all the other teams in the West, because here's my logic. Like Utah, no way. I'm sorry, Utah fans. You guys you got worse. You couldn't do it last season as the number 1 seed. You're definitely not doing it this year. It's just not happening. Sorry. Alice, not a chance. I know Luka has been playing out of his mind. I'm a gigantic Luka fan. I just don't think the team is there. I don't think their coach is good enough.
Yeah.
Denver also just too many injuries. But like honestly, if you give Jokic healthy MPJ or not both or Jamal Murray, I really think they could be a title contender. But he's not going to have either of those guys probably this season. I would say it's him and Joel are my top 2 MVP contenders. I would say he's probably number 1 for me, though, Jokic. I think he's overtaken Embiid for me, actually, surprisingly enough. I know that probably blew your mind a little bit.
Oh, but yeah.
And, God, I really hate to say it, but I'll put the Lakers as an actual contender still just because they have LeBron. They're like a super distant contender. I really don't think they can.
They're a dark horse now.
They're a dark horse. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't think like a really long shot bet on them as champion is crazy. Like, I don't think that's crazy. Why not? They have LeBron. They have Anthony Davis. Like, there's a chance. And the other argument I would have, too, is that if you look at Russell Westbrook, second half of the season, Russell Westbrook is always better. He's always better. If you look specifically at the last 2 seasons with Houston and Washington, he was drastically better in the second half of the season. Not only him, but his whole team. Drastically better in the second half. So look out for it. I don't know. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't think it is, but it's legitimate. In the West, though, I would say there's 3 legitimate contenders. It's Phoenix, Golden State, and Memphis, with a 4th being the Lakers, right?
Okay.
East is different, though. Okay. Miami, definitely. Milwaukee, definitely. Philly, definitely. And then I would say Brooklyn, definitely. That's 4. Yeah. I'm also adding in, I have 3 more teams that I think can win in the East. Wow. I have 7 teams total in the East. I think Chicago definitely could do it. I know I just chatted some guff on Chicago a second ago in our little Zach LaVine talk. They can do it, man. If they're healthy, they have all the pieces. They have 4 stars, 4 all-star caliber players, maybe even 5. The team is good enough to win. They really are. It's just a matter of health for them, and they all know their role. Right? Because I would argue, Bernie, if they go into the playoffs and Zach LaVine is their guy to shoot the shot, and I'm sorry, Zach, I'm sorry to go back. I just kind of hyped you up, and now I'm going back on it. If they choose him to be their final shot guy in the playoffs over DeMar DeRozan, there's no way they're winning the championship. I'm sorry. You're not doing it. DeMar DeRozan, just let him shoot. Sorry. He's going to make it, probably. I really think Cleveland can win this season, too. I think they're a really tough matchup for a lot of teams. Even more, like I think I hear more The hot button comparison team is always like the early Golden State Warriors, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody likes to compare up and coming teams that could win a championship early to them. I think the team that gets mentioned most often in that vein is Memphis. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Memphis nowadays? Like most people say, like, yeah, they kind of remind me of like the young Warriors, right? I don't know if that's the case, but I feel like most people say that. I would say, in the sense that they can win early, I think it's Cleveland. I think their team is legitimately good enough to win a championship. And that's mostly because they're such a tough matchup. They're going to come up against so many teams at the seed they're in. I mean, Milwaukee, if they stay at the 4 and 5, that's really tough. They're not going to beat Milwaukee in Series 1. They need a little bit of experience before they got into one like that. But say they played like Toronto or even, honestly, even Brooklyn, I think they could beat those teams. I really do. Last one, Ernie, most surprising for you, I think your Celtics could win this season.
Wow.
Honestly.
I think the Celtics, huh?
I think you guys are good enough. I've been the only one on this show that has defended them. I hate them the most out of all of us. I have defended them from before the season started. I think they're better than you guys give them credit for. They just did not have the right chemistry in place. And I think with what we're seeing since Derek White has been back, or since he's acquired and his last little stretch run, man, chemistry seems like it's kind of coming together. And if the chemistry comes together, you have 2 top 25 players in the league. I would argue 2 top 20 players in the league in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. That's good enough to do it most years. And I don't know, man. I like the energy. I like the energy with the Celtics right now. It feels right. It feels right. Like a lot of the demons that they've had for these last couple seasons are kind of being exercised in real time. We're watching it. I think they're getting better as, season goes on. So I would be a little concerned to play them if that trend continues, personally. That gives me 10 teams total. I think there's 10 teams that can win.
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit of them are, but at the end of the day, the East will always be competitive. It's just a couple games decided between the 3 to, honestly, the 3 to 6 seed. Like that. That's how close it is. And so we'll find out.
There's just no super dominant teams, man. That's what it is.
Yeah.
The only team that really should be more dominant in the league than I think anybody else is Milwaukee, but they've just been so injured all season, right? Yeah. Only other team I could think of is let's see what Philly does with Harden, right? Yeah. If it goes right and it's Embiid and Harden, that'll be
scary hours.
Won't be fun to play against.
Some scary hours with James Harden.
Yeah, I mean he has lots of scary hours. He's out there at night.
Yeah. But with that being the case, Pete, I think we're gonna have to call it there. That was a good question to end on, just because we are, we're now finally entering in that second half of the season. Obviously, the All-Star break signifies the half, and so we're gonna see what teams are gonna make that next push and what teams are gonna coast. Obviously, I think the top teams can coast a little bit. The other bottom teams have to kind of work their way up to get to where they need to go and make themselves contenders in the league. But nevertheless, Pete, thank you for joining us here on The Charge. It's always a pleasure having you. We have to do it again this week sometime, man. We're gonna have to make some time.
Yes, yeah, 100%. This is gonna be more regular for sure.
Yeah. And with that being the case, please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Remember, the more likes, the more subscribers, the more the channel will grow and develop. And like I said, we want to make this a basketball community with everybody. So find out who an NBA fan is and tell them about The Charge and let them know that we're expecting them here. But with that being the case, please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody. We'll see you in a little bit.
Peace.